The following 10 biopics, which were all released in the last year or so, are all based on true events, but all contain certain scenes that don't quite play out as they did in reality. Some dates were changed, some characters were added or removed from particular moments, and sometimes the truth was completely and utterly mangled. I'm as shocked as you are. Just remember folks, don't always believe what you see on the big screen. Because I am Gareth, this is What Culture, and here are the 10 biggest lies in recent movie biopics. Number 10. Strauss's offer, Oppenheimer. In 2023, Christopher Nolan brought the world his latest cinematic epic, a 3-hour exploration of the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer, the man chiefly responsible for the creation of the atomic bomb during World War II. Sure, J. Robert might have unleashed the technology that killed thousands and left millions more in a constant state of fear, but just look at those cheekbones, eh? As well as his work on the bomb, the movie also depicts Oppie's relationship and rivalry with Louis Strauss, chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission, who conspires to get the famed physicist's security clearance downgraded. One scene depicts Strauss offering his foe a position as director at Princeton's Institute for Advanced Study, which Oppenheimer says he'll think about. It's implied that this is him snubbing Strauss, but in reality, Oppenheimer took the job. Not only did he accept Strauss's offer, but he remained at the Institute for Advanced Study for the next 2 decades, serving until just a few months before his death. They might not have been the best of friends, but this is one part of the Strauss-Oppenheimer relationship that wasn't as frosty as the movie made it out to be. Is Oppenheimer Christopher Nolan's best film to date? Well, if it's not, I want to know what is in the comment section down below. Number 9. Wall Street's Gains, Dumb Money. The story of the 2021 GameStop short squeeze was so crazy that it was only a matter of time before Hollywood came a-calling. An attempt by Wall Street hedge funds to drive up the price of the dying business stock prompted a backlash from Reddit's own market trading community, who bought so many shares that the original plan backfired, leading to massive losses amongst the financial elite. This was a real-life story of the little guy standing up to the big corporations, and it got its time on the big screen thanks to 2023's Dumb Money, which starred Paul Dano, America Ferrera, and Pete Davidson, among others. The movie explores the initial short squeeze backlash, and then Wall Street's attempts to crack down on the independent traders who were costing them so much money. However, not everyone had suffered in the first place. Whilst a few big institutions lost out, many more still made handsome profits. As much as the movie would lead you to believe, the GameStop incident did not spell disaster for the entire professional investing sector. They made a dent in the establishment, sure, but not enough to bring it down. Number 8. The reunion in Ele Maestro. Following the success of his first directorial effort, A Star Is Born, plus all the other success he's had as an actor, producer, and general handsome man, Bradley Cooper released a new movie in 2023 called Maestro, a biopic of legendary composer and conductor Leonard Bernstein. Maestro stars Cooper as the man himself, and Carey Mulligan as his wife Felicia Montelegre. Though their love for each other was strong, Lenny and Felicia's marriage was hampered by the husband's concealed homosexuality, one of the main themes of the film. After a period of time apart, Felicia travels to England to watch her spouse give the performance of a lifetime, conducting a piece by Mahler in Ely Cathedral. The couple share an emotional embrace after spending so much time apart. Well, they do in the film anyway. In reality, this scene couldn't have happened because the Bernsteins hadn't even separated yet. That happened in 1976, whilst the Ely performance took place 3 years earlier. This was clearly done for dramatic effect as a means of weaving this iconic moment into the plot, but it is, unfortunately, a complete and utter fabrication. Number 7. Death by iPhone, Blackberry. In case you weren't feeling old enough already, enough time has now passed for people to be making nostalgic movies about the rise and fall of Blackberry phones. Time is fleeting, resistance is futile, death is coming for us all. Anywho, Blackberry from 2023 showed how 2 friends and business partners successfully marketed the device during the early 2000s, making it one of the most desirable accessories of the day. This success doesn't last though, as the Blackberry's popularity slowly dips with massive consequences for those involved. The movie's big turning point comes with the launch of the first iPhone, which is made out to be the primary reason for Blackberry's decline. Whilst Apple's invention did play its its part, it wasn't the only factor. Sure, iPhones were more stylish, but they were no match for the Blackberry in terms of security, which had always been a major selling point. In fact, it was Blackberry's decision to launch a touchscreen version of their phone, known as the Storm, that ultimately did them in. This is covered briefly towards the end of the film, but it isn't demonized nearly as much as Steve Jobs' shiny pocket computer. Number 6. Nike's budget, Air. As well as a movie about a phone, 2023 also saw one made about a type of shoe, and people say Hollywood is running out of ideas. Air, directed by Ben Affleck, who also starred alongside Matt Damon, Viola Davis, and Jason Bateman, chronicles the formation of the partnership between Nike and Michael Jordan, which ultimately led to the creation of the incredibly famous Air Jordan. Sneakers are big business these days, so it makes sense to talk about the one that helped start it all. But then again, it is a movie about a shoe. One of the key moments in Air comes when Phil Knight, Nike's co-founder played by Affleck, assigns the company's basketball division's entire budget to the task of signing Jordan. In the film, the number is given as $250,000, whereas in reality, they had a lot more to play with. The budget was actually $2.5 million spread across 5 years, which amounts to $500,000 a year. The film clearly slashed the figure to make it seem more impressive that they got Jordan, but this decision came at the cost of its integrity, and you can't put a price on that. Cheers for watching this video today. Hit that subscribe button down below for more of this sort of what culture stuff in your life. Number 5. Enzo's Promise, Ferrari. Director Michael Mann first started planning a movie about Enzo Ferrari, founder of the namesake automobile brand, in 2000. 23 years later, it finally came out. Ferrari starred Adam Driver as the main man, thankfully doing a much less offensive Italian accent than in House of Gucci. As well as his exploits in the business world, the movie also covers Enzo's family struggles, particularly with wife Laura, played by Penelope Cruz. Much of this narrative centers on whether Enzo's illegitimate son should be granted the Ferrari name. Understandably, Laura isn't keen on this, especially as her own son died tragically young. In the end, Enzo makes a promise to his wife that he will not grant his other son Piero his name until after Laura has died. This is played as a touching moment between the pair, but that's not how things really went down. Italy had very strict divorce laws at the time, so Enzo was forced to wait until his wife's passing in order to legally acknowledge his other son. It had nothing to do with any sort of devotion to Laura, that was just added for dramatic effect. Number 4. Most of the Swimming, Naiad. After many years of trying and failing to cross the Florida Straits, swimmer Diana Naiad finally accomplished her goal in 2013 at the age of 64. 10 years later, this story was turned into a movie starring Annette Bening as the titular water-loving woman. The movie, just called Naiad, centers on the title character's training both physically and mentally, and her interactions with Bonnie Stoll, her trainer who just so happens to be her former girlfriend. Most people wouldn't trust their ex to help them swim 110 miles, but there you go. This story is really uplifting, with Bening even getting an Oscar nomination for taking on the part, which is why it's so sad that, according to some people, a lot of it is untrue. Naiad's career has been plagued by accusations of embellishment and forgery, none of which were covered in the picture. Whilst the movie makes it seem like she completed the swim with the assistance of just one boat, she actually had multiple vessels supporting her. She also wasn't attacked by a shark during the 2013 attempt either, so if you're after a true feel-good tale, then you might want to look elsewhere. Number 3. The Game Boy Tetris. A phone, a shoe, sure, why not add a video game to the mix? Makes about as much sense as anything else. Apple TV's Tetris stars Taron Egerton as Hank Rogers, a software designer who stumbles across one of the biggest breakout games of all time. No, it's not Breakout, it's Tetris. Sorry, that was a bit misleading. After meeting its creator Alexei Pajitnov at a conference, Rogers sets about trying to sell the rights to Tetris to Nintendo. This in turn would create one of the most lucrative partnerships between software and hardware in gaming history. Tetris on the Game Boy. In the film, Rogers is shown the legendary handheld console by its developers, who claim that he is one of the first people in the world to see the device. Whilst it's true that he was one of the first people in America to view the Game Boy, it had already been on sale to the public in Japan by this point. Still, Rogers would convince the company to bundle Tetris with their new console at launch in the US. And the rest, as they say, is history. Number 2. Meeting the Duke, Napoleon. After many attempts to bring the life of Napoleon Bonaparte to screen, Ridley Scott finally released his take on the infamous Corsican in 2023, and the reaction to it was mixed. Scott's film came under massive scrutiny from historians, many of whom claimed it was riddled with inaccuracies. The director's response to this was, "Excuse me mate, were you there? No? Well shut the flip up then." Only he didn't say flip. Listing all of the things wrong with Napoleon would take several hours, so let's zero in on one particularly egregious scene in the movie. After his defeat at the Battle of Waterloo, the disgraced emperor played by Joaquin Phoenix is taken hostage and comes face to face with his great enemy, the Duke of Wellington, played by Rupert Everett. The two have a very respectful conversation, despite their bitter rivalry where it's determined that the beaten leader will be exiled to the island of St. Helena. Truly, this is one of the most historically significant chinwags of the last 300 years. Only it would be if it had actually happened. Truthfully, Napoleon never met Wellington. Not at Waterloo, not anywhere. Oh, Ridley, what are you like? Number 1, The Missing Brother, The Iron Claw. Featuring versions of Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, and Harris Dickinson that looked like they'd been blown up like balloons, 2023's The Iron Claw told the story of the famous wrestling family, the Von Erichs. A set of brothers from Texas, the Von Erich boys were as popular as could be in the 1970s and 80s, under the watchful eye of proud yet fearsome father Fritz. Then it all fell apart, as through a number of accidents and tragedies, all but one of the brothers died, with several taking their own lives. It's a really sad story, one that would have been even sadder had it been more accurate. Brothers Kevin, David, Kerry, and Mike are shown in the movie, but there was actually another brother called Chris who didn't make the final cut. He was also a budding wrestler and, like two of his siblings, committed suicide when the pressure got too much. Director Sean Durkin said in an interview that Chris's death was one more tragedy that the film couldn't really withstand. And whilst this may have been the case, you still can't help but feel like Chris was done a disservice here. It doesn't change the fact that The Iron Claw remains one of the best films about wrestling you will ever see, of course. And if wrestling is your kind of thing too, then be sure to check out What Culture Wrestling for more of this sort of fascinating wrestling stuff.